Hey guys, I'm Will from Tested.
I'm Norm from Tested.
Norman Chan, the Internet of Things.
IoT.
IoT.
We are
Imagine
in the age
a world.
of IoT.
Imagine a world.
I want to
Norm.
believe.
Imagine a world where when you go home, your refrigerator has a beer in there for you, and it'll be cold and ready to drink. Imagine a world where when you walk down the hallway at night, the path lights up for you.
Can that be today?
That could be right now.
Wow.
It's at my house, actually. I have the Internet of Things at my house. Internet of Things is one of those dumb buzzwords. We hear it a lot. But basically what it means is taking what we previously think of as dumb devices that plug into a non-network connected power outlet in your house. Appliances, lights, security stuff, and then making them a little bit smarter.
Connected to the internet.
Connected to the internet
Or at least
somehow.
your device.
Yeah, so I guess it's been more than a year now, we kickstarted the SmartThings, which was one of the first, it's a universal hub that lets you connect things to the internet, and it uses a series of open standards, or I guess they're licensed standards, they're not actually open, but Zigbee and Z-Wave, it's basically a hub that lets you connect Zigbee and Z-Wave devices to the internet.
It's like a puck.
Yeah, it looks like an Apple TV size box. It has an Ethernet port on the back. It has USB, micro USB power, I think. There's one button. There's nothing to it really. I didn't even bother bringing it in because if I did, then none of the stuff I'm going to show you would actually be demoable here today.
So this is like a router for your appliances, where your appliances typically they would not have sensors or they would not have any connectivity. They get all funneled to this puck. And that, with the puck, runs the algorithms, runs the APIs, and connects to your app. That's
exactly it. So it uses these two mesh networking protocols, Zigbee and Z-Wave. They're more or less the same. There's some differences about them. The SmartThings uses US frequencies for those. There are international frequencies that it doesn't actually work with. We haven't tested any, for obvious reasons, like European compatible versions of these devices. But Zigbee and Z-Wave are both mesh networks. So what that means is, Wi-Fi is a point-to-point network. So when your phone connects to your Wi-Fi access point, then it goes to the access point and comes back. It doesn't matter how many other Wi-Fi devices are on. All those devices have to be within range of your access point.
That's why you need the access point to be in a centralized location,
exactly,
unobstructed, with good range to all your internet devices.
Exactly. So Zigbee and Z-Wave are mesh networks, and what that means is that each device can serve as a repeater for every other device. So you put your SmartThings hub someplace in your house that's near one or two devices, and then they'll kind of daisy chain through the rest of the house. You don't have to worry about putting that in the middle of your house. Mine's in my garage. It works fine there. Occasionally I have to go out and unplug it or replug it to do a firmware update or something like that. But for the most part, it doesn't have to be in the central part of the house, which is very convenient.
This is not high bandwidth.
No. It's super low bandwidth. We're talking like Bluetooth Low Energy.
Yeah.
They're basically sending, I think, like short text commands that say, go to this setting level. In the case of some of the sensors, you get a little bit more data, but still not massive amounts of data going across.
So what are the endpoints in these networks?
So the endpoints can be tons of different things. You can have sensors, you can have switches, you can have. I have a list here. I'm going to just go down and I'll tell you what we have. There's control switches, which turn things on and off at a real base level. So things like light switches, the physical switch that goes in the wall, you can pull the old dumb one out, put one in that's smart, and then what you get in addition to that is, in addition to be able to turn the lights on and off with a button, it will tell the hub, hey, I'm on, hey, I'm off, I'm at this dimmer level, I've been on for this long, et cetera, et cetera.
Just that little bit of information. That's what makes it smart.
That's all it takes.
That's all it is.
The thing that actually makes it smart is the hub. The hub is the glue that holds all the things together. The other stuff are just dumb sensors, right? They say, okay, there's motion, there's not motion, there's the temperature changes, the temperature is this, the temperature is that. The hub denotes the changes in state and does things based on those. Okay, so we have light switches, we have outlets, which are again outlets that you replace in your wall, just like a normal plug. They can tell whether they're on or off, and you can control those with software as if they were switched, even though they're not. There are things that you plug into dumb outlets. That'll be like a little breakout box that then has a plug in it, and those can do things like track the amount of power that's being used out of that outlet, turn them on or off, whether they're on and it can look at the amount of current and say, oh yeah, this is on, oh yeah, this is off. And then you can flip those on or off as well.
It's like those smart power strips that we saw from Belkin a while ago, except now you can actually tap into that information and programmatically do things with them.
Exactly. So instead of having just a dumb button that sits on your couch that you can use to turn those power strips on or off, this can happen all with software. And theoretically, you can even write apps and do other things. We'll get to that stuff in a minute. There are smart light bulbs, so things like the Philips Hue, which uses a separate proprietary system, and there are several proprietary systems for home automation stuff, including Philips Hue. Lutron does their own proprietary dimmers, light and motor control stuff. There's stuff that looks like it might be proprietary that isn't, like that Lowe's. The stuff that they're selling in the home automation section at Lowe's and Home Depot now is mostly Z-Wave based. So those devices often will work with other Z-Wave compatible devices. You don't have to buy the Lowe's or Home Depot hub and then pay their monthly fee to do that. You can get a garage door opener. You can get door locks, like deadbolts and the thing that you push down on your front door to open it. Speakers, Sonos. You can hook a Sonos system up to this now. Harmony remotes will access it if you have the right kind of Harmony hub. You can access that. You can add sirens, strobes, all sorts of stuff like that. You also add tons of different sensors, motion sensors, like door open close sensors, vibration sensors.
As long as they are Zigbee or Z-Wave
Zigbee or Z-Wave, or because it's all software based and this thing connects to the internet, have another API that's compatible. So you can even do like little presence tags. So they're like these little things that look like, remember the key fob that you used to have to use to buzz into a building? It's about that size. They have a little watch battery in them, and they just tell the hub, hey, I'm near. That's all it is. So you can do that stuff with you can mimic a presence sensor with your smartphone. But if you have, say, a toddler or young child that's going to be out in the neighborhood and about, but then comes home after school or whatever, you don't have to give them a smartphone for that stuff to work. And those presence sensors are like 20 or 30 bucks, so they're not terribly expensive. Luminance sensors, flood sensors, humidity sensors, thermostats, buttons. You can have just a button that goes in the wall that's just like, this is a button that's not connected to anything.
On and off, and how long it's been on.
Well, but it's a software. But you can make that a software control for other stuff. The hub is the glue that holds the whole thing together. You really only need one of those for most houses. And what they do is they provide a software interface. A lot of them, like the stuff that they sell at Lowe's, specifically comes with a monthly service charge. So in order to use that, you have to pay $10 a month or $15 a month or whatever it is. It's analogous to like what Comcast is rolling out now, and the ISPs are rolling out with their security systems. A lot of them are very similar to this, but again, they have monthly fees associated with them. And one of the reasons I went with the SmartThings is because it's no monthly fee.
No monthly fee. $100.
$100.
Plug it in. It's open standards, and how's the app?
So the app is really good. It's evolved a lot over the last year and a half. I didn't kind of talk about it. We didn't talk about it in the beginning because it wasn't particularly good or useful. And the ecosystem of devices that you could connect to it was a little bit thin at the beginning. It was basically like a couple of motion sensors, the presence sensor, a door open close sensor, and then some light switches. Over the last year or so, we've seen a ton of stuff come out of both Kickstarter and then other companies investing in Z-Wave and Zigbee, including things like this Aeon Labs motion sensor. So it's a normal motion sensor you put up in the corner of your room. It says, oh, people are moving around. But that one's actually really smart. It also measures the amount of light that's in the room, and it'll measure temperature and humidity as well. So like having access to whether the lights are on in the room or whether the window lights coming in from outside is an incredibly useful thing. And you can make it, say, turn the lights on when the light dims rather than tying it to sunrise or sunset or something like that.
What about things like Nest Thermostat and the Nest Protect? Do those tap into the same system?
So a lot of stuff that has APIs, SmartThings in particular is using, they're writing APIs that hook into their APIs so that you can connect through these things. They call them SmartThings Labs. Basically, it's like a beta section for stuff that's in progress that maybe isn't fully polished, but you can connect to the Philips Hue, you can connect to Honeywell thermostats, you can connect to Sonos, you can connect to the Jawbone Up with that. You can't connect to Nest directly, but there is if TTT support. So it's if this, then that, which is a wonderful web service. There's tons and tons of endpoints, and you can connect SmartThings to that. So what you can do is, like, if this is a dumb thing you shouldn't do, but if you wanted your house to tweet, you could have your house tweet every time you come home.
That's just creating recipes for different actions, and when sensor X happens, Y happens.
That's exactly right. If this and that, you can specify which devices on your network. They call them things with SmartThings for obvious reasons. Which things have access, which things if TTT has access to. And then from that, you can program all sorts of things. And you can even control, like I can turn on the floodlight at my house with a tweet if I wanted to. I don't have that set up. I think that's dumb. But the interesting thing comes in if you want to log, say, if you wanted to log stuff to Evernote or to a Google Docs spreadsheet and see when people are coming in and out of, say, a business. So if you wanted to have your employees, if you wanted to do a time clock based on when they're there and not have them punch stuff in, just have them set up the app on their phone, and then you could track them coming in and out.
Or have them wear a little key fob. And
wear the little fob, yeah, use the little fob, whatever. You can also hook up things like door locks. Like I said, garage door openers, like all sorts of stuff. Presumably you can even get solenoids. There's even an Arduino shield for this, so you can plug an Arduino, or I think even a Raspberry Pi, into and hook that into the SmartThings network, basically.
Okay. Right, so you got the SmartThings hub,
Yes.
$100. Maybe you've bought things that have Z-Wave or Zigbee compatibility. I'm sure some people have it already in their homes. They're just not connected.
Or maybe you have a Philips Hue.
Or you have that,
Yeah.
right? It's all connected now. Then what can you do?
So at that point, you can.
Or what should you do?
The first thing you should do is figure out what you want to use this for before you buy anything, right?
Yeah.
It took a little while to figure that out for me, and you know, it's a thing that it's a conversation you have with everybody that lives in your house. So my wife and I sat down, we kind of talked about what we wanted to do, and then we did it. Didn't work very well. So I initially just set up some lights on remote controls and thought, oh, this will be handy. I can send it to turn on and off when it's dark in the room. Then I had the problem, oh, how do I figure out it's dark in the room? I look at sunrise and sunset, but over the course of the year,
that changes.
It's not even just the sunrise and sunset change, but based on the angle of the sun in the sky, the amount of light, the time before or after you need the light on changes dramatically because we're pretty far north here. So that didn't work very well, and eventually I got to a point where I was like, well, I'm going to hook some motion sensors up to this and see what happens. So we had bought, we kickstarted a starter kit, which was basically a couple of motion sensors, I think 3 or 4 of the plug-in wall jack, to plug it, the things you plug into a dumb wall jack to make lights or appliances turn on and off remotely. And once I had the motion sensors working right, then it became much more useful because it meant that you walk into a room, like I started with a fairly, let's see, it's a room that's used sporadically. So it's my office at home. Okay. When I'm at home working, I use it all the time. When I'm not, it's nobody ever goes in. So I put the motion sensor up, set the lights to turn on and off when they saw the motion. And that was amazing. That worked really well. You walk in, the lights turn on. You walk out 2 minutes later, the lights turn off. The dog walks in, nothing happens. It doesn't turn on for her.
And it's smart enough to distinguish between like large objects and small animals and.
Depends on the motion sensors you get. Some of them have adjustments for sensitivity.
Wow, there's a lot of. It seems like there's a lot of options, right? Like because there are so many different types of sensors and so many things you can measure and so many type of ways to combine that information. There's a lot of things. Like for example, I can imagine. Knowing if someone leaves their room and leaves their computer on,
yes,
that's wasting energy.
Yes,
and then charge housemates more for idle computer use time.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
You could do things like one of the dumb things that they initially pitched as here's a thing you can do is you put an open-close sensor on your mailbox. So when the mailman comes, the door opens, the door closes, it just triggers a notification that says, hey, your mailbox has been opened and closed. So you know the mail's come. That's a super silly thing to do, but you can do things like put an open-close sensor on your garage door so that then you know, oh, I left my garage, because it's the thing everybody does eventually, is you drive home, you drive away, you forget to close the garage door. If you have the garage door actuator on and the sensor, you can not only tell that it's closed, not only tell that it's open when you're not there, because it'll know this. Remember, the SmartThings knows you're there or not. It knows the state of everything in the house. So when you drive outside of this certain range of the house, it'll say, oh, the garage door is still open. I'll just close that for you. You don't even have to think about it. It just happens. So that's the real beauty of this thing, is that instead of just being based on motion, basically you set the house to certain states. This took me a while to figure out because it's a little bit confusing, and they've made some software updates that helped over time. And probably the easiest thing to do is just walk you through them. So I'm going to pull up the iPhone app here.
And this is the latest version of the app. There's apps for iOS and I presume Android.
Android. I haven't used the Android one very much. I've used it a little bit on my Nexus 7. It seems almost exactly identical to this. So this is the basic app. Basically what you see here, well, so nobody's home right now. You see Gina's not home, Will's not home. I don't have a tag for the baby because she's always either with Gina or me.
And so that's tag-based because it identifies.
So this is based on the phones, actually.
Okay.
So you install the app on your phone, and then you can set it up as a presence device. And the way that works, I can just show you. Actually, I'm not going to show you that because it'll show you a map where my house is. Basically, it says here's a circle around where we think you are. How big should this circle be? When you leave this, it assumes you've left the house. When you're inside, it assumes you're at the house. And it's about a tenth of a mile, the circle. So
That's not bad.
Yeah,
That's pretty accurate.
When I turn the corner to go down my street, basically it says, "Hey, Will's home," and Gina gets a notification. I get a notification. You can turn that stuff on or off.
That's way more useful than the leave house reminder, for this type of action.
Yeah. Well, so then what you do is you set different states for the house. So by default, I think you start with a home and away.
Okay.
So that's people are there, people are not there. It'll switch automatically. When it switches between modes, you can set the modes to trigger based on certain activities. So I'll show you that next. For cleaning lady was here today, so it flipped on when she came and switched back when she left. Okay, so this is the I'm here. Actually,
What happens when you're back?
So hold on. Gonna go to goodbye. This is the one that switches you to away. So when you switch away, I turn off all the lights in the house because they don't need to be on anymore.
sense.
The dog can sit in the dark. If I had door locks, which I don't, I would set them on. The lights that have dimmer control, like the Philips Hue or the wall plugs that allow dimming, you can set them to whatever level you want. So if you just want to keep it 10%, that's cool. You can keep a night light on, essentially. You can change the thermostat if you have a compatible thermostat. Like I said, I have a Nest, not a Honeywell. I think this is only compatible with Honeywell. I would be shocked if there's not Nest support at some point. And then you can set the changes, the mode in which all this stuff happens. So in this case, you have a bunch of different things that can happen.
These are conditions.
These are conditions. The only one that I'm using right now is everyone leaves, right? So that means Gina and Will's phone are both out of there. It waits 10 minutes until we leave, and then it switches us to the houses away. Okay. And that's pretty much it. There's lots of help information in here. It's all pretty self-explanatory. It says don't automatically do this if I'm already in a way. That would be silly. And then you can set it to give push notifications to people who have different phones. It gets interesting when you start using the more complex ones. So I'm going to say the cleaning lady's here.
Yeah.
I don't have the cleaning lady's phone hooked up to this. I didn't give her a tag.
Yes. So what is your precondition? How does what is the house? What state does the house have to be in? So we're
already
gone.
Yeah.
But there is movement.
That's exactly it. So things start happening. Any of the motion sensors see movement between this time and this time on Tuesday, which is the day that she comes.
Okay.
Then it switches into the cleaning lady's here mode.
That's the best time to rob Will's house.
That is, everybody knows now. It says don't automatically do this if I'm in certain modes. So if I'm home, doesn't do it. If it's nighttime or whatever, it doesn't do that.
That's a good smart thing because this is where there could be fail points.
And just to be clear, fail points on this stuff are really bad. Like you don't. The hard part about setting all this up was getting to a point that there weren't fail points.
You have to debug basically where are the logic gaps.
Exactly, and it is very much like an old school Apple II game where you have to figure out logically how to move through the flow chart. The software is much better than it was, say, a year ago, even 6 months ago. There's still some stuff, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. When the cleaning lady leaves, then we go over here. It turns all the lights back off. And it does that. It changes the mode back to away, presumably because nobody's home. And then it goes in and it does things quiet down again, which is no movement for 30 minutes and between these hours, and then it turns off. And you can again exclude certain modes. You can't say only do this when I'm in this mode, which is weird. Like there's some weird logic gaps.
Right.
You have and booleans, but maybe not or booleans, and definitely not booleans. Like I would love to say only do this in this mode.
Or never do this when I'm home.
Exactly. It hasn't so far done it while I've been home, but at some point it'll be janky. And because I have to limit it to only the days that she comes, if she comes on a Thursday or Friday or something, it doesn't work. So when you change modes, you can do, the other interesting one is nighttime. So here's good night. This happens, these are the lights in the rooms that I use frequently. It's the bedroom and the 2 living room, the lamps that are around the living room.
Now, is it smart enough to know, for example, to tap into like a do not disturb on your phone?
This is for it's dark outside, not for I'm going to bed. So this happens at sunset automatically. It goes 45 minutes before. I have to constantly adjust this throughout the year because during the summer it needs to happen later. During the winter it happens earlier, or else it's dark in the living room. I really wish, like I have a luminance sensor in the living room now. I really wish that I could say, okay, do this when the light level in the room goes below this level within 2 hours of sunset. It's not that smart. So, like judging by the rate at which they're improving this, I think that'll probably change. but it's a gap right now in how this works.
You talk a lot about sensors. How big are these sensors, and do they need power, or what's their connectivity?
So we'll put some of these sensors. We'll put pictures of them up right now. The window sensors are just like normal window sensors. So it's a magnet on one side, a little box on the other. It's about the size of 2 AA batteries. You stick it on the wall. You typically buy a window, and it trips based on the magnet. It's a Hall effect sensor. Most of these are powered with AA or AAA batteries. Some of them are watch batteries, like big lithium watch batteries. The motion sensors, you eat batteries a little bit faster. It seems like you'd replace the battery every 6 or 8 months. The the window open close sensors, I mean, I've been going for more than a year on a couple of those, and it seems like they're still there. And actually, the app shows you how much battery you have left
on each sensor.
On each sensor.
Oh, that's good.
So you can go in here and see all the things that are connected.
Wow.
Then this is everything.
It's a lot of sensors.
It's a lot of stuff. So these are the open close sensors. And this tells me I have 25% battery on this one. The temperature at that door is 67 degrees, and this is a vibration sensor in the top right corner. So if somebody bangs on the door, then that'll trigger. You can do all sorts of weird stuff like that. You can do like knock sensors on picture frames, all sorts of dumb stuff.
I'm already yearning for simpler times.
You want to go back to a time when your stuff was dumb.
Yeah, this seems like it could be a lot of fun to toy around with, but how much of this is actually useful?
So one of the interesting things that I've done is I set a Hue, I connected a Hue bridge and put a smart bulb in my entry, in the light that's right by my entry, my front door. I live in the nearest street light is on the other side of my house, so it's a very dark kind of corner when I'm coming in to put a key in and open the door. When somebody comes home and the system's set to nighttime, so the thing to remember about this is everything's based on the mode that the house is in. When the system's set to nighttime, it follows a different set of rules than it does when everyone's away or when it's set to people are home but it's daytime. And so if it's nighttime or if it's in sleepy time mode, which is after everybody stops moving at like after 11 o'clock at night, then the front porch light just turns on when I turn the corner, which is great. It means I walk up, I turn the key in the knob, and I can go in, and then when I shut the door, the light turns off. I realize, you said logic holes, you find logic holes after a while. I realize that I also want that light to come on when I open the door and I've been inside the house. So I had to go through and make another action, and I can show you, that that actually trips when I open the door and it's night or sleepy time, and then the light comes on. Now the place that this whole thing breaks down is that I don't have a way to do that, to turn that off. Like open the door without the light coming on if it's dark out. So there's a switch right next to the door, and I flip that off.
You still have to rely on physical switches.
Occasionally use a switch. Figuring out the rules for all this stuff took a while. Like now I have it set so when you walk into the bedroom and it's nighttime, the overhead light comes on, one of the night lights, one of the bedside lamps comes on. And it basically means that like when you're carrying a wet kid in from the tub, I can go in, put her on the bed, and it's no problem.
Now, if you don't want all this automated stuff and you just want to tie actions together with a physical switch,
yes,
can you just do that?
You can do that as well. Yeah. So if you just want to monitor, like if you want to put if you have a basement with a sump in it and you're worried about flooding, you can put a moisture sensor, a flood sensor in that sump at the place above which you if the pump stops working, this is where the water will go. Put the sensor there, and you'll be notified hopefully in enough time to go start bailing before your basement floods. That kind of stuff I think is much more useful. Like my hot water heater started leaking a couple weeks ago. I didn't have the moisture sensor in there. Didn't really have any, like my garage it's in my garage, so it's not going to destroy anything. But if I had, say, a 10-year-old water heater in a place where I was worried about it leaking, a moisture sensor is $35 and it'll hook up to this whole thing. You can use it for instrumentation only. You can use it to do all the automated light stuff. You can also use it as a security system if you want. Yeah. So you can put the motion, like if you're looking at paying ADT or some company like that $50 a month to do a security system, then $50 is the cost of installing plus the service amortized over a couple of years, I think is what the contract usually is. This is, these sensors, this is a one-time cost for you. And you can get all the same stuff right up to the fact that this won't call 911. So you can
and keep a track of a log of all,
this
all
logs
the
everything.
activity.
Yeah, you can log everything. So you can see. You can see everything on
spying your kids
on a pure. Well, you say that, but if you have, say, an 8-year-old coming home from school,
no, it's good.
You want to know when your kid gets home.
Yep.
So you see a log of not just like here's the overall activity. this is the cleaning lady left, the cleaning lady arrived, we woke up in the morning, we went to bed last night, on down the line. But you also can see on each individual device. So this is my front door sensor. I can go to the activity log, and it says, and it gives you updates every time it checks in. So here's the temperature, no vibration. Oh, it's vibrating, it's moving, the temperature goes up, and that goes back for weeks and weeks and weeks, because it's just tiny little data points in a database.
Now, this is all localized data? This doesn't go to any service?
No, that's the thing. It all goes into the cloud. So SmartThings runs a web service. This is all, I think it's all hosted on AWS, but I'm not sure. It could be some other provider. Uptime so far has been really, really good. The whole thing breaks down the moment your internet connection conks out.
Right.
So it's something that they're aware of as a concern. My assumption is at some point in the future we'll have like a fail-safe mode that rolls over. But as of right now, the reason it's a $99 box is that when the internet, it relies on the internet to work. It's why I can control stuff from here without having to do any weird router configuration.
It's a plus.
It's a plus and a minus.
And a minus. I mean, you're relying on the internet. There's also some privacy concerns. I'm sure
there's
it's
security
encrypted.
stuff as well.
But I'm sure some movie plot line will have someone tapping into someone's SmartThings and find their patterns and then find ways to break into.
Well, and they don't do two-factor authentication or anything like that right now. So really, it's only as good as your password is. I wouldn't put, my personal preference is to not put things like doors, like actual physical locks on these. I feel like the smart lock manufacturers have a kind of lackadaisical attitude towards security right now that I don't like. I mean, I realize that physical door locks are among the easiest things in the world to open if you want to and have a $20 set of lock picks.
Or a rock. But
you have to be at the door to do that, and somebody could open my lock from the internet, which I don't really think is a great idea.
Right.
The external connectivity for other stuff, the thing that they're doing that's really neat with SmartThings is the hooking into other people's APIs. So for example, when I switch from sleepy mode to good morning, wake up mode, it can do things like play the weather report out of my Sonos speaker that's in my bedroom.
It's pretty good.
I did this for 3 days because I thought it was really dumb and funny. When I walked into the living room, it played the Seinfeld riff from the beginning of every segment.
3 days is too long.
3 days was way too long.
Way too long.
You said it to do one a day, so it was funny for 3 days.
Yeah.
You can control Harmony stuff with this now.
Yeah.
So if you buy the new Harmony Home Control Hub or update your existing Harmony Ultimate Hub with the new software that'll be out presumably sometime soon, then you have the ability to control Harmony stuff, like stuff in your entertainment system from SmartThings, as well as controlling SmartThings from your Harmony. So you can control the lights and all that. Yeah. Adding that in has exposed some more places that I want more control over the whole thing. But it's like, all in all, I think it actually works.
A lot of people have Harmony, a lot of people have Sonos, and a lot of people have Hue.
Yeah.
And now this is a relatively easy way. If you have those things, $100 isn't a lot of money to connect all things together.
To glue it all together.
Yeah.
The other thing that's happening is GE just a few months ago released, I think they're Z-Wave, but they might be Zigbee, I can't remember, bulbs. So they're smart bulbs. You don't have to have the separate Hue hub. They're much more reasonably priced than the Hue bulbs are, and presumably they'll connect directly to SmartThings. I haven't actually gotten to test those yet because they've been out of stock, or people are buying them and then selling them for 4 prices. But like that, as that stuff comes online, this is going to become even more useful. Because actually, I find that having the overhead light is much more useful than anything else, because you flip that on and off, and it's just good. It just works really well.
Based on how much you've used it, are there any power savings? Are you finding
it's difficult to say,
or is it actual cost savings?
So I switched everything to LEDs more than a year ago now,
and that gives you
that was a huge power savings. The actual, like, once the Harmony stuff, so my Harmony, I literally just hooked it up a week and a half ago. I think that having the TV turn off when there's nobody in that room for a while will probably save money, because the TV is, like, the 55-inch TV or 58-inch TV, whatever it is the thing that draws more power than anything else in the house right now. We don't leave the TV on that often, so it's not usually an issue. I think that probably doing things like upgrading your electric water heater, or replacing your old inefficient dishwasher with a new, more efficient model, or your old inefficient refrigerator with a more efficient model. Like that, for your bang for your buck, is probably going to save you more money. Insulation in your roof will save you more money, especially if you're using electric heat. There are huge limitations on stuff that you can wire directly into the system. So I have a house that was built in the late 50s. It uses 2 wires to every switch. There's no neutral third wire. We have a ground. We have a ground and a hot.
Okay.
There's no neutral third wire. Most of the in-wall stuff requires a neutral third wire to work. So if you have an old house with only 2 wires to outlets, you're going to have to do other stuff. Then you can't replace the switches probably. If you aren't comfortable doing electrical wiring, you should hire an electrician to install anything that goes in the wall. It is super easy to do. There's a ton of videos on YouTube that show you how to do it. Flip off the power to the whole house at the breaker box, and you're relatively safe when you do that. But if you're not comfortable with it, an electrician can come out and replace all of your switches in like 3 hours if you want. This stuff's expensive.
Yeah, I can add up how much of sense. I mean, you said the hub is $100.
Yeah.
You can get a pack with some sensors.
They basically give you like $3 or $4 off per thing when you buy multiple things.
But how much are they individually?
So it depends on the devices. Assume most stuff starts around 40 or 50 bucks.
Oh, wow.
So the in-wall switches are 40 bucks, which is like if you're comparing it to a fancy Lutron touch dimmer, that's $20 or $30 more than a normal switch. If you already have fancy touch dimmers and you're replacing them, it's a $50 cost. So if you're doing new construction, it's not as expensive.
If you're doing an upgrade.
If you're doing upgrade, it can get pricey. The boxes that you plug into the wall are 40 to 50, 60 bucks, depending on how smart they are, whether they track power usage, whether they're dimmers or high amperage appliance switches that you can use for like a coffee maker or something like that. I find that the dimmer boxes are really useful. The ones that control actual appliances, not so much, because I'm not going to cut all power to my entertainment system because I want the DVR to keep running and stuff like that. The motion sensors are $40 to $50.
Wow.
The Hue bulbs are like, it's 180 bucks for a hub and the 3-pack.
Yep.
The GE bulbs, the new ones, are supposed to be $20 to $30 each, which is not super expensive for an LED bulb. It's like 10 bucks more than the normal price for an LED bulb at this point. What else? The contact switches are 30 bucks each. The presence sensors, 30 bucks each. It sounds expensive until you, like, if you're looking at an alarm system, it's what you would pay to put an alarm in your house, basically. So, like, I don't know that this is going to help you sell your house for more. I don't know that you're going to see massive returns on this stuff. If you want to put an alarm system in your house and you're okay doing, and you trust yourself to do it right, then this is an okay way to do that, and then you don't have the monthly fee too, which I actually quite like. I have
the fact that it gives you the web access to those things, to Harmony, to Sonos, to Hue, that itself I think is worth $100.
Well, so most of that stuff has. Oh yeah. If you already have bought into some of those things, then that is a useful add. And then, I mean, the nice thing is you don't have to do this all at once. So, my policy on upgrading LED bulbs, which there's 40 bulbs in my house, it would have cost a fortune if I did them all at once. I did them just when bulbs burn out, and I bought, every time I went to Lowe's, I bought 2 or 3 bulbs. And at the end of a year, I had all LED bulbs in my house. If you do this the same way, that'll end up that way. So if you want to start out and see if you like this, find a room that doesn't have an overhead light. Like my living room doesn't have overhead lights. Buy enough boxes to do the lamps that you use to light the room. Put a motion sensor up in the corner of the room. And you're looking at $200, $250 at the outside.
And that way you're learning the system, you get to learn the app,
exactly.
You get to figure out whether it's right for you.
Exactly, and you're not out too much money. The granularity of control is, we talked about the no knots, no ors, for if you can't do a complex decision tree based on whether things should happen. So for example, if I come home, the system always switches to home, even if it should switch to night, which is just weird. Like I should be able to say if it's after sunset, switch to night. If it's before sunset, switch to home.
You would hope that'll get better.
Exactly. But it is really nice coming home from a long trip. The front porch light turns on, the door opens, the living room lights are on,
it's
the kitchen
future.
turns on. When I'm away, I can set it to a vacation mode that just flips lights on and off on a schedule, so it's like Kevin from Home Alone. The crooks, it looks like somebody's home even if there's not. And then, of course, there is the security concern. So
And right now, there are no options that let you do all this without the internet connection? Local?
there are, but you kind of, the internet connection, like I would, if I had to choose between having something that worked when the internet was down and didn't have good internet connectivity the rest of the time, or something that
You can use remotely?
but conks out when the internet dies, I think I'd choose the remotely thing, because it's nice to know. It's nice to know. Hey, my kid got home. Hey, the cleaning lady's clear, so I can go home now. That kind of information is useful, and the fact that I can check in and see, yeah, no, there hasn't been any motion in my house during the 2 weeks I've been off on vacation. It's just it's a cliche, but you're kind of paying for peace of mind
And convenience.
And after a month and a half of having the motion sensors up, my wife the other day on the podcast, we recorded Mr. and Mrs. Smith last week, she said, look, I thought this was dumb when you first started doing it 2 years ago. It's actually at a point now that when you walk into the room, the lights turn on. The rooms that don't have the motion sensors yet, she's like, I don't turn the lights off. I forget to turn the lights off because I'm so used to just leaving it on, letting it turn on, letting it turn off when I leave, and letting the house think for me.
All right.
So, yeah, so that's it.
SmartThings.
SmartThings.
It was Kickstarter. You can buy it now.
It's $100 for the hub. You'll need to buy some other stuff, probably, unless you have it already. I think it's really good. It's not for everybody. If you're not a homeowner, probably not very much interest to you. Norm, are you going to smarten up your house?
I think I have Philips Hue, I have Sonos, and I have Harmony.
You're gonna plug that all in.
That makes sense.
Hook them all together.
Hook them all together.
That's how it starts. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.